Derek, your research says that cost isn't the bottleneck, fit is. And you have alluded to why people trust an advisor, why they need a trusted advisor. What criteria do you look at that helps you to define that fit, where one advisor can be selected and even though they may have identical credentials?
This goes back to a saying, I don't know who said this originally, but people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think that really sums up well what people, I think, in their gut are feeling when they're looking for an advisor. And going back to my anthropology days, I was going to be Indiana Jones. That didn't happen. If you look at human history over hundreds of thousands or even millions of years, trust is formed based on shared commonalities, experiences, shared understanding. Not my portfolio, not the size of my 401k. And so really what we want to look at is establishing a baseline where rapport and trust can occur naturally. And we do that through connecting people on deeper levels. Do we have a shared experience? Are we both dog people? Do we like cars or surfing or travel? Did we go to the same school? Are we parents? And as soon as you start checking off these boxes of, wow, yeah, so-and-so really is a lot like me or understands people like me, we instantly start to have this attraction. Jason Wenk said a while ago, attract your tribe with your vibe. That really resonates with me. So, bring people in with who you are. And once you establish that rapport and trust, now the floodgates can open up. Now the consumer, the lead, the prospect is like, okay, I like this advisor. I feel a connection to this advisor. Do they have the credentials? Do they have the experience helping people like me? Check, check. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you everything. And once that happens, the advisor is actually now empowered to be the best advisor they can be because they're given more of the data. They need that information. A lot of advisors have been in situations where the client wouldn't tell them everything, and then the relationship and the advice are not great, don't last long term, and so on. And so that behavioral fit, that piece where we really connect as humans first, is so crucial to having a really good long-term relationship.
Joel, if you were designing the ideal AI-enabled advisory practice today, what would that look like? And what percentage of an advisor's time would be spent face-to-face with clients?
Well, I think the first thing, which Derek was just touching on, is screening clients to begin with, right? I mean, we've been around a while. If I was practicing today, I would have the, privilege of saying no to, to prospects as well. So I think that works both ways. You need to be able to screen for people who you think you're going to be able to help because they are like-minded. And if they don't realize it, you should realize it. And so I think, having a good questionnaire, doing some screening, first of all, right up front is really important. And I think, as far as the ongoing relationship, I want to automate everything operationally that I can. I want to automate everything that is data-based as much as I can. And I want to spend the time as an advisor face-to-face with a client that are, the emotional things or the nuanced things where I can add value. And I think what's going to evolve in this industry, and it's already starting to happen, is, advisors need to spend their time on where they really do add the most value. And as we implement AI correctly, it'll allow us to do more of that.
Augustus, you spend a lot of time, years, helping people to understand financial concepts. How should consumers use AI chatbots for money questions, and when should they go talk to a professional?
It's a great question, right? And should is as you know, in this industry is a tough one to say. I think the understanding chatbots has to be the foundation for anybody. If I'm talking to an end consumer right now, if you are wondering how and when you should be using chatbots, the main thing that you need to understand is that you're still in charge. That AI is a really smart intern who can go do research for you. But at the end of the day, the intern is still following your lead and can very easily get off track. And if it doesn't know exactly what you're looking for, it's going to probably lead you in a direction you don't anticipate. And the challenge is most people already themselves don't know what they're looking for. So I think for an advisor, as we look at what is the stuff that, I think it's overconfidence to say that AI will never be able to replace everything that a human does within this service. Not human existence is a whole nother conversation. But I think the things that have the longest lead time for advisors are providing navigation and conversations. So navigating those moments, those challenges, having someone that you can look to, because it's going to be hard, like I mentioned earlier, to gather the right data for any system to be truly predictive and help you anticipate decisions that you're making along the way. The second thing is the conversation. So Chat GPT is an answer engine, right? And it's not starting conversations, it's not guiding you through a conversation. What an advisor does really well is when you have no idea where to start, what to do, how to navigate a challenge, the advisor knows and anticipates the context and then guides you to give them the answers and the information that they need. So it's sort of this, extractive advice, right? Where you can get the information that you need. And I think that's the longest lead, where AI is not and will not be capable of doing that for quite a while. So advisors can lean into that opportunity by being more proactive, more having those conversations, providing the context, because in doing this online, educating millions of people, polling thousands of people a week for more than 5 years, the number one things that I realized was that you need to have a private way to ask questions. Those questions already exist, and whether they feel comfortable or not asking you them, you have to create a really welcoming environment, a private. And when we would be posting, even anonymous accounts would come into our DM. We get 5 to 10 times more DMs and form responses or email replies with questions than we would on anything public, even if they were private accounts. So people want a way to ask questions, and that's a huge gap that ChatGPT is filling. So they're coming to your conversations, to your meetings prepared, because they're asking all the questions that they still don't even feel comfortable asking their own human advisor. So you have to be able to make it so easy. You have to be easier to ask questions to than ChatGPT or Google, and that's by leading them, providing context, anticipating those questions, and creating a line of communication where you're in front of them as much as possible, so that a reply to your email is easier than them Googling it and trying to figure it out themselves.
But we can build a better chatbot for our clients than what ChatGPT can provide. So, for example, there's a lot of deterministic things that, if they were prompted right, they could give a good answer to. I don't know, I want to make a contribution to my IRA this year. Should I put it in a Roth or a traditional IRA? Well, without giving ChatGPT a lot more information about yourself, which I wouldn't advise, especially on the free version, ChatGPT can't give you the right answer. But if you're tied into everything you know about the client, because you have all their income data, their tax bracket or anything, your chatbot could do that, right? And I'm not suggesting that everybody's going to build one, but I'm just saying we can out chatbot the chatbots if that's what we choose to do, if we have the right information to do it, and give a much more nuanced and correct answer.
Excellent point. Let's move on to the next segment.